We understand that hormones affect those things, but why don't we go the other way? Why don't we use these external factors, skin, sleep, mood, as a biomarker to help us understanding what's happening inside with our hormones?
And now a message from Sanofi and Regeneron. Learn more about Dupixent dupilumab at www.dupixenthcp.com. Welcome to That's Derm Good. Today, my guest is Elle Black. Elle is the founder of SAME, a hormone-friendly skincare brand and predictive skin app.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to chat with you and talk about SAME, and there's so much going on. Tell me a little bit about SAME and what a hormone-friendly skincare brand is.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking. It's funny. We sort of intuit, especially as females, we intuit the connection between our hormones and our skin because we all went through puberty and remember the havoc that wreaked on our faces. Of course, some more than others. But as we get older, it's almost like we forgot this wisdom, right? That there is a predictability and a rhythm and a pattern to what's happening on our face, and it's tied to our internal landscape, which is our hormones. But we sort of forget about that, right? It's so funny. So anyway, I got a stark reminder of that about 2.5 years ago when I was really struggling with breakouts, unclear skin, all kinds of problems. And then I landed in the emergency room and had a 5-pound cyst, my right ovary and my right fallopian tube removed. When I woke up from this emergency surgery, I got a diagnosis of stage 4 endometriosis. Janelle, when I tell you that I could not have been more surprised if I had woken up and had my face sewn to the floor.
That is crazy.
I'm not exaggerating. And I have to kind of laugh about it. Otherwise, the severity and the pain of it all really sits heavy on me. But I was quite surprised. That was the first time I'd ever heard the word endometriosis. And then hearing that I had stage 4, whatever the heck that meant, was quite terrifying. So I let the drugs wear off from the surgery, and then I went home and I was on a 6-week bed rest to recover from the surgery. So during that 6-week period, I was super lucky because I had time. And so I had all of this time to lay in bed and read everything that I could on endometriosis. And you better believe I did. This became a full-time job. I feel like a researcher now. I'm completely, educated on PubMed. I can show you exactly how it works, exactly what you're looking for, who the researchers are, where the holes are, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I learned. The first thing that I learned is that I was actually not that rare. 1 in 10 women have endometriosis, which that's a huge percentage of the population if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about 10 friends. One of them very likely has endo.
Wow.
And then I learned the majority of infertility, 58%, is linked to endometriosis. So I realized that in order for our species to even continue on this earth, we need to get a handle on endometriosis. We need to understand this very confusing disease, understand what causes it, and then, what we can do about it. So first of all, I learned I'm not that rare. Second of all, I learned that although 1 in 10 people born with a uterus have endometriosis, I also learned that there are no therapeutics. That means there's no way to actually get an endometriosis diagnosis. And if you're like me, you're considered one of the lucky ones. I'm only lucky and I only got a diagnosis because a surgeon cut me open and saw the tissue herself. So she was able to diagnose me that way. Other than that, there is no way to diagnose endometriosis officially.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? There's no test you can take. There's no biomarkers. There's no blood test. And it's because it's tissue. So the way to think about endo is how Eastern medicine talks about it, which they call it non-cancer cancer. So it actually behaves very similarly to cancer in that it is at the tissue level. It creates growths and it's estrogen dominant. So it's fed by estrogen. And, endometriosis, specifically what it is the wrong tissue in the wrong place. So this really special tissue that women have inside our uterus that makes it so a fertilized egg follicle can stick. It's like Velcro. It's that tissue all over your body. Stage 1 means it's localized or it's just in one particular area. Stage 4 means it's everywhere. Now, the it's everywhere is very difficult to tell because how can you see where it is? When I was going down the research rabbit hole, I learned that we have found endometriosis in brains, in hearts, in eyes. I mean, it's everywhere. And so because it's an estrogen dominance or a hormone dependent condition, as your hormones fluctuate up and down, as you go through puberty, menopause, perimenopause, endo changes. And so you get these really severe symptoms all over your body that are really wild depending on where the endo is in your body. It's a really crazy kind of like wild disease.
It is wild. Oh my
And then
gosh.
once you get a diagnosis, like again, I'm lucky. I at least got a diagnosis, not just like a suspected diagnosis. There's absolutely no therapeutics, which means medicines. There's really nothing you can take. There's not a pill. And look, I have some mixed feelings on that. I think it's good and bad. But it means you're left to your own devices to kind of devise a way to feel good while managing a chronic hormonal condition. And so, knowing that I was going to have to manage this hormonal chronic condition, I started reading and researching everything I could to understand like how it works, the mechanics of the disease. And I just learned that there was this huge connection between hormones and everything. Hormones in our skin, our hair, our mood, our cognition, our sleep. And I started asking myself, why are we not connecting the dots? Why are we not saying, look, all of these things are indicators, right? And when I say things, I mean how well you're sleeping, how glowing your skin is, how strong your hair is. One factor of them is what's happening inside you with your hormones. We understand that hormones affect those things, but why don't we go the other way? Why don't we use these external factors, skin, sleep, mood, as a biomarker to help us understand what's happening inside with our hormones? So that's really how we got to the same app, and that's what we're developing. So we believe that hormones are the root cause of all of the things that, the medical community and even like pharmaceuticals sort of ignore, right? Sleep, cognition, skin health, hair health, mood. If you go to a doctor and say, hey, I'm not feeling great, 4 out of 30 days a month, they're going to be like, well, here, let me give you a Lexapro, and it kind of misses the whole point that maybe there's something inside our hormones that we can really figure out. So anyway, while I was laying in bed feeling sorry for myself, I realized that I wanted to do something, and I wanted to turn this horrible thing that had happened to me into the best thing that had ever happened to me. And that's how I came up with SAME. And so the idea was, could we create hormone-friendly products, starting with skincare? And again, these are products that work in harmony with your hormones, to actually unlock all of this wellness that we're all so busy chasing right now. That kind of wasn't enough for me. I wanted to also do good. And so I reached out to EndoFound. They're the nationwide nonprofit for endometriosis. They were started by a phenomenal doctor. He wasn't my doctor, but he's phenomenal. His name is Dr. Satchkin. And they fund breakthrough research for endometriosis. So I told them, hey, let's develop some products together. Let's do some research together. And let me donate 10% of all proceeds from SAME directly to EndoFound to fund breakthrough research. So it's really skincare and wellness products on a mission to fund research.
I love that. That is so awesome. Yeah. So, okay, what products do you have and what do you use them for?
Oh, great question. So let's talk about my point of view on formulating and products, right? So back when I was, laying in bed for 6 weeks doing all the research, I also learned that there's a class of chemicals. They're called endocrine-disrupting chemicals, EDCs. Girl, when I tell you they're in everything, they're in everything.
Yeah.
And so, I sort of developed a point of view on how you should go about consuming the world or living in the world and in harmony with it as much as possible. And so the first thing that I wanted to do was really when you think about working in harmony with your hormones, you have to think of it like, what can I do first? Of course, eliminating and trying to reduce exposure to that as much as possible is the first step, because that means you're protecting your body's natural hormonal rhythms, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Janelle. It's hard. EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
One day I actually spent 24 hours writing down everything in my entire world, everything I ate, breathed, touched, saw. And there were EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals, in 92% of everything. Yeah. I'm talking candles.
I believe it.
skincare, laundry detergent, washing machine, cleaning products, pesticides. That's like the number one, your water.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of threw everything away and started over. And when I couldn't find a really great skincare line that didn't have EDCs in it and was focused on that, I decided to create a line of that. So we have a line of low tox, no tox skincare called Same. And you can get that today. We sell online and in Amazon. Some of my favorites actually are glycolic acid and salicylic. They're really good, like non-tox alternatives like a retinol. We have a cleanser that has that. It's an award-winning cleanser. And then my favorite product is actually our cold-pressed certified organic marula oil. And I really like the marula oil for a couple reasons. First, like the scientific part. First of all, it's just marula oil. There's nothing in it. But the second reason is it's cold-pressed and certified organic. So it's very, very, very pure, right? So you can get a lot of marulas on the market, but this one is very specifically cold-pressed and certified organic. Hard to find. Because it's cold-pressed, it maintains its purity. And what's really great about marula oil, it has 6 vitamins and 9 antioxidants. And most importantly, it's a very small molecule. So that means that when you use the marula oil, your skin can actually absorb it very deeply. Those antioxidants and those vitamins, they can get into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th layer, like very deep into your skin. And so they replenish and refeed your skin's microbiome, which actually a lot of people talk about as like your skin barrier, but it's your microbiome. Just like your gut has a microbiome, so does your skin. And you need to feed it and nourish it so it can be glowing and beautiful and happy.
Marula, when you said marula oil, I was thinking hair oil.
Oh no, I use it for my face. I use it, and actually so I'm a big fan of lymphatic drainage. So I just do like a gua sha every night. And I use the marula oil to do that. And the good news is while you're using a little tool to do that, you're also rubbing it deeply into your skin, which unlocks a lot of glow. I'm very glowy, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of glow.
I love it.
It's all from marula. And the other thing about marula oil is it doesn't clog your pores. So it's ideal for women who maybe have oily skin and they're struggling with acne, but they're afraid of like a moisturizing product. This is what we see a lot, especially with people struggling with hormonal acne.
Yeah.
So 1 in 3 women have a hormonal challenge when you look at 3 chronic diseases, if you will. Endometriosis, PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and then perimenopause. 100% of women will have a hormone imbalance if you add menopause. So what ends up happening with these 3 conditions is, your skin really starts to get funky. And you're like, what the heck is happening here?
Right.
And you can't understand. And so you go to the store and you buy all the anti-acne stuff and you stick that on your face and you strip your skin barrier and you disrupt your skin's microbiome and your skin's kind of oily and you think oil's the problem, and it's not. You actually need to understand the multi-factors of what is making your skin not glowy. So if you think about it like this, right? Like glowing skin is multifactorial. Here's what that means. What we need to do to understand how to unlock and get glowing skin all day, every day, is identify the variables. That's what our app is doing. So the variables for glowing skin, pretty easy, right? The first is your hormones. Where are you in your cycle? Where are you in your age? What's happening with your hormones? The second is sleep. That affects it a lot. The third is stress. That affects it a lot. And the last one is what I'm going to call triggers, which is like lifestyle factors. What are you eating? What are you drinking? Are there any other external, what are your products? What are the external things that you're putting on your skin? So our app looks at those 3 things and uses AI to intelligently help you understand how to unlock your perfect algorithm for perfect skin every day. It really starts to show you the rhythms, the connection, the patterns that your skin has so you can optimize it.
So can you tell the difference between oily skin or glowy skin?
Well, that's a great question. Like me personally or the app?
Well, both.
So, I mean, look, it's all super preferential, right? Like you can look at my skin and be like, Elle has oily skin. I actually don't. I have really dry skin, but I like a glowy skin.
Yeah.
And, the interesting thing about oily skin, and we can just talk about this from like a technical point of view, because it's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah.
So the way hormonal breakouts work. Do you know the mechanics of how it works generally?
Yeah, generally, yes.
Yeah. So the idea is like actually as your progesterone rises, your basal body temperature increases. As your basal body temperature increases, your body creates more sebum. If your skin barrier is not disrupted, or it's like you have too much product or it's clogged, then that creates the perfect condition for those deep hormonal acnes. That's exactly what they are. It's like these very deep hormonal acnes. It's really interesting to think like, okay, what biometrics do we have right now today, because everybody's wearing wearables? What do we have that can give us any kind of indication that a breakout's on the horizon? What should I do in advance? That's really what we're looking at.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
So, makes so much sense, because then you can kind of calculate what's going to happen and how to take care of your skin, prepping your skin, knowing, kind of understanding your surroundings and what's going on in life.
Exactly. Because everyone's skin is also so different, right? I'm not going to come out here and say, I have a system that works for everyone. But what I can say is, here are the factors. Plug in your data. Right. Figure it out, and it will help you understand what you need to understand about your body, your life, your skin, your lifestyle, your triggers, and then you'll be able to actually like start to figure out how to, I call this the meat sack, how to work with your meat sack.
I like that. So when you were thinking about different products, were they coming from a place of, oh, I need something like this, or I haven't used this, or you've had issues? Like, what other products do you have other than just some of the topical creams that you just talked about?
Yeah, so it's so funny because we're moving to like a new model, right? So my insight here is really simple. The beauty industry, of which skincare is a part, is like a $500 billion a year industry. And it's predicated on having a problem and then creating a product that will solve that problem. Our idea for skincare, once we have the app in place and we can start to predict and understand what your skin is going to do, we want to move to preventative, right? What if you never get a breakout? Right? And like,
that'd be great.
Yeah, right? And like, I think we can get there. I really, truly think we can get there. It just dramatically changes, and it questions how an entire industry was currently built. But, this is also part of why I think the beauty industry ignores so many of the factors that we're talking about: your hormones, your sleep, your stress, your lifestyle triggers, because they can't sell you a product to solve for that. They can't. Yeah. All they can say is, we have a holy grail product. Use this and your skin will be glorious. It's like, well, actually, products are like 5%. 5%. If you think about like, a score being 100%, one variable products is 5%. You're ignoring 95% of everything else happening in and around your world that's affecting your space.
They're fads. There's so many, things that come up. As soon as you click on Instagram on one face, cream or one face mask, then all of them start popping up, and every single one is better than the other. And now you see like, ours are better than this, like naming the brands, which is absolutely insane. And I'm like, oh, what? Oh, maybe I need to get this one instead because it says it is better.
I know.
It's wild.
Yeah. And I'm really optimistic that we're just about to see a big change, right? Like and look, we're talking about skincare, but there's so much in this vein, right? If we just zoom out and assume skin is part of like wellness, and wellness is a subset of medical, this is the future of medicine too. Right? Understand your unique variables, isolate them, start to track them, put them into an app, and see what you learn about yourself. Because that's where I think the future of medicine gets really, really interesting and really precise. And we're getting there, girl. We are so getting there.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about the app. What are some of the other features that will be in there? So you can plug all your data in. It's going to tell you like what products you should use, or
it's going to give you so we call them protocols, right? So hey, here's where you're on your cycle, here's the do's, here's the don'ts, to get glowing skin. And then we ask for a feedback loop. So add your triggers, add any symptoms, and then we aggregate the triggers and the symptoms with the entire community, and then we'll be able to actually give you crowd-based insights. And I think this is going to be the most interesting part, because we're going to find out we're actually similar. There's like types, right? And like once we get to that point, I think it's going to be really interesting, because part of this, and I'd love to hear your perspective on it. I think being a woman can feel really lonely, right? So I think about the user journey, because I am this person. You wake up in the morning, you go look in the mirror, you're like, sigh, another day. My skin isn't glowing. I don't feel beautiful. I'm really crampy. My face is puffy. what am I going to do today? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that moment is actually an awesome opportunity for connection. So imagine opening an app and being like, okay, you're about to ovulate. So you're feeling kind of grouchy. You might
Mm-hmm.
be feeling like the world is heavy. 36% of women, just like you at this stage, report these cravings, these symptoms, these problems. And here's what they do to feel better. And like
Right.
that community and sense of like we're all the same, that's what we're
Yeah.
looking for here.
Right. Everybody is looking for community and want to
Yes,
feel
ma'am.
like you're not alone and you're not the only person experiencing those things.
And what did you do that worked for you that I can learn from for me? And what did
Yeah,
I do that worked for me that can help for you? And now we're like
absolutely.
really tapping into the magic of what it means to be a woman in sisterhood.
Yes, I love that. That is
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you to Sanofi and Regeneron, who invite you to learn more about Dupixent Dupilumab at www.dupixenthcp.com. Okay, so why is heart rate variability important
HRV.
for the skin? What is HRV?
Yeah, great question. So are you an Aura girly?
Um, Not really.
Now tell me, I would love to know why.
Because I just never really learned much about it and never
Oh,
really
yeah.
got into it. Yeah.
Yeah, so heart rate variability is a super interesting metric. Aura tracks it, and our app is actually built on top of right now the Aura data. We plan to expand it after we
Okay.
get out of beta, but right now it's based off of Aura. And also, you can get the same data in the Apple Health Kit. So you don't have to have an Aura ring to use the app. We can pull the data from
Okay.
the
Wait,
Health
what is
Kit.
the Aura ring? That's the one that like,
Yeah, it's this guy.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and it tracks your biometrics. So it
I've
tracks
seen
your
those, but yes,
yeah.
I've looked into them and then I never, I don't know, I forgot, I guess.
Girl, it's awesome. Awesome. They're awesome. So they track a couple of biometrics that we're using to help you understand what's happening with your hormones, but also with
Mm-hmm.
your skin. So heart rate variability, it's a really funny and like kind of counterintuitive biomarker, like a metric, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is the heart rate variability tells you how much your heartbeats are different while you
Hmm.
sleep, right?
Okay.
Now, I'm going to kind of blow your mind here because it's interesting. Heart rate variability is not a relative. It's a relative metric, not an absolute metric. Here's what that means. Absolute metrics are like out of 100, everyone should try to get to 100, right? It's
Okay.
absolute. If my score is a 98, that's better than someone else's who's a 54.
Right.
A relative metric is actually what does it mean for you specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So heart rate variability is a relative metric. Now I'm going to give you some numbers here to paint a picture here. My heart rate variability is very low. I can't get it higher than like 25, and I have some friends that have like 158 as their heart rate variability. But because it's not an absolute metric where vis-a-vis 25 is worse than 158, it's actually 25 is good for me. And
Mm-hmm.
what you're looking at when you look at heart rate variability is like how consistent it is over time. So that's how the metric can really help you understand you. Now, let's get into what actually heart rate variability is, because it's this really interesting thing. It's the best way to tell you what your body's autonomic nervous system is doing while you're sleeping. So it's a really good indication
Mm-hmm.
of, because when you sleep, all of your systems go on autopilot. And depending on how they do on autopilot is a pretty interesting picture of your health.
Yeah.
But specifically, it can tell you one thing, which is stress. So the
Makes
more
sense.
stressed you are, the lower your heart rate variability is going to be.
Mm.
And so that's how we're actually starting to predict and understand stress's impact on your skin.
Mm-hmm. So now I feel like I need to go get one of those Aura
Auras.
rings.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to control my stress.
Yeah, I mean, it's super,
first.
look, and this is where all of the like protocols get really interesting, and like all of this is connected, right? So
Yeah.
I'm obviously using my app right now, the same app right now, because we're in beta, and I'm trying to prove that it works, and it's super exciting. And so I have this 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 biomarker that says I have high stress. And so one of the protocols that the app wrote for me was, okay, in the morning, you're going to splash your water. After you wash your face, do 10 cold splashes on your face. This actually helps your skin, but also reduces the cortisol and the stress markers to help improve your HRV. So the app really looks at everything like that and gives you low cost, no cost ways to kind of hack your system to unlock glowing skin from the inside out. I'll give you another example, because it does protocols AM and PM. And so last night, again, because my heart rate variability is bad, it's like, okay, I was actually where I am. I'm about 3 days before I get my, before I ovulate. So I'm in that phase of my period, and it's an ideal time to do a face mask. So it's like, hey, tonight, do a face mask with these 3 ingredients because we know your skin type. And then while you're doing that face mask, you're going to put your feet on the wall to lower your cortisol and get your body ready for sleep. And I did. And then, I woke up today and I feel much better. My head is clear and I think my skin looks great. It's glowy and happy.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm like thinking, okay, I need to try this.
I need very holistic, right? Like, we're not just trying to sell you product here. We're trying to show you how everything inside you is connected to what's on the outside, and here are all the things you can do to optimize it.
Right. So you can proactively take care of yourself versus waiting until to be reactive when,
That's right.
now
that's
my
right.
face
And
is all
that's
puffy.
the thing, right? That's the thing about products. Products are reactive. We're trying to imagine a whole new world. What if everything is predictive?
Yeah.
What if we prevent breakouts before they even happen?
Yeah.
And that's a very threatening thought to a $500 billion a year industry.
Yeah.
They're actually not incentivized to tell you this.
Right.
They're incentivized to keep you in a problematic, panicky state because only they have the solution and they're going to sell it to you.
Right.
I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to create that world.
I agree. So, and I mean, because, I get migraines, so I know that is really related hormonal.
Yep. And
too.
food triggers.
Yeah, definitely food triggers. Weather triggers are my biggest triggers. So rain is like instant, but I definitely would be interested to see something like this, how that could help me almost kind of, I can kind of predict because, I usually when I get migraines, I already know when's coming, but to be able to help to prevent that, especially if I know my stress levels and hormone triggers, things like that. Yeah. Sleep for sure.
I'm making the gesture of sleep. You need sleep. Actually, it's so funny you're talking about migraines.
That's true.
So I get migraines really bad. And this is why I'm fascinated about this idea as your skin is a biomarker, right? So I'm going to show you. I'm going to actually lean in here and see if you can see it. So when I get a migraine, I found for me a couple of my triggers, eating chocolate or like sugars on an empty stomach while I'm having a stressful time and I haven't gotten good sleep. And weather is a trigger for me, but only when it's like big swings, when it's like really cold and then really hot. Okay. But my number one trigger is hydration. And I'll send you a picture of it because I actually have photos where I'm having a migraine and you can see it on my face.
Oh.
Because I'm dehydrated. And so my skin is dehydrated and it's giving me a clue that I need to drink more water. And I'm about to get a migraine if I don't drink more water.
Oh, I like that.
There are so many ways that our skin is telling us.
Now that you're pointing it out, I can see it now.
Our skin, you can see it. Our skin is telling us what's happening on the inside. It's a mirror. It's a biomarker. We just need to pay attention to it.
I love that.
It's a totally different approach.
It is. It really is. That is absolutely amazing. That makes so much sense to be able to kind of tell ahead of time and know, like, this is the plan. This is the process, what you need to do. And I feel like you do see so much stuff now about talking about your cortisol levels and your hormones and stuff. That's kind of trending.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about cortisol for 1 second because it has a bad rep, but cortisol is really important and you actually need high cortisol. You need it.
You need high cortisol?
Yes. Cortisol is great. So this is the problem. Is like cortisol, it does this all day. Cortisol is designed to do this, to go up and down, to have these big fluctuations. Where you get negative cortisol effects is when you just have elevated cortisol all the time and it's stagnant. That's unhealthy. You want your cortisol to have these big spikes, right? Okay. Which is, it sounds like, this is what I mean, like all this biomarker stuff, I'm so fascinated by it. It's the same thing as heart rate variability, HRV. Yeah. You actually want your heart rate during your sleep when you're like totally like autonomic and your system's just working without you even thinking about it. You want it to have these big swags, right? And when it doesn't, it's because your body's in a stressed out state.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and like people don't know this. They're like, I want to like educate the world. I'm like, let me tell you how it works.
Light bulb moment here.
Well, I think it's really easy for people to demonize things, right? Everyone's looking for a problem so we can solve it. And I'm trying to say, actually, our problems are typically multifactorial. So let's look at all the variables, which is a very like functional medicine or holistic way to approach all of this.
Right.
Cortisol ain't your problem, girl. It's the symptom of like 5 other things.
Right.
Let's figure it out. But, you know, one of the things that's interesting about cortisol is like, it's what wakes you up in the morning.
Yeah.
So if you don't wake up with energy bouncing out of the bed, you actually might have elevated cortisol because you actually need like this spike to wake you up. Like that's what it does. If you have those days where you wake up excited and joyful out of the bed, it's because your cortisol spike was very high.
Interesting. Okay. So how do you get it there? That's the question.
Oh, multifactorial. Girl, if I could tell you.
You don't have time for that.
You know, it's so funny. I feel like, you know, my wellness journey is like based off of my own journey. So I can tell you, you know, the things that I did. And, you know, this goes back to kind of my mission. This whole thing that happened with endo with me, you know, it changed my life. It took me out of the game. It robbed motherhood from me. It took an ovary. It took my hormones. It took you know, there's a lot that comes with that. And I think as women, we're so resilient and we're like, okay, we could sit here in sadness or we could turn around and make this the best thing that's ever happened. And I legitimately, Janelle, spent 2 years blood tests, tracking. I did everything. I did the cortisol test where for 24 hours, you like spit in a little thing at a certain time. Yeah. And then I did the next one where you pee on a little thing and you like, I've done all of them. And the thing that I feel like is that it always kind of comes back to basics, right? How's your sleep? How's your sweat? How's your stress? And like, I do think that there's something magical about making peace with yourself of not needing to be perfect, but being in pursuit of what's best for you. And the joy is in the pursuit, right? And like kind of shifting how you're looking at this. I'm not trying to be perfect every day. I'm trying to do my best and I'm enjoying this process. And I just think that that's like a big, huge mind shift that like, yeah, our hormones actually are up and down all day. Our biomarkers are up and down all day. You know why? Because that's what makes us human. We're not meant to be static one thing all the time because it's the ups and the downs that make everything so sweet. It's the changes. Yeah. Anyway, that was a tirade.
No, that's so good. I love that. You know, I think a lot of people still don't know how tied their skin is to their cycle. Why do you think that connection has been overlooked?
Well, we have a $500 billion a year industry telling us, here's a problem, here's how to solve it. And you can only solve it with this product.
Yeah, that is true.
But like I said, you know, we intuit this. We understand all of this, right? Yeah. But, you know, we're from Western medicine and we want to take a pill to solve our problem. We want to buy a product to solve our problem. In reality, I think we can, you know, optimize our health and look at how connected everything is. And thank goodness that's kind of the way the world's going. You know, the direction that we're all going is towards this more holistic understanding of all of these multifactorial things that affect our life and our happiness every single day.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's important to be able to tune into your body and to understand your skin. It makes it so that it's more empowering.
100%. Yeah. I think it's really like, I don't know, this is a little bit woo-woo, but like the mind-body connection, right? Like understanding that all of this is working together. And we need to figure out, what are we feeding our mind? What are we telling ourselves about everything happening inside? And how do we tell ourselves, like, actually, these are solvable problems and I can understand myself. And I don't need to go out and buy X thing to solve Y problem. I can figure it out internally.
Right. Yeah. So how do you balance being a founder, an advocate, and then also someone that's managing a chronic condition yourself?
Sleep. I mean, like I said, we started talking about this, like I have non-negotiable basics, right? If things are out of control, I'm like sleep, sweat, stress. If any of those things are out of whack, sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to take care of me. I can't come to your party.
Yeah.
I
What time
love
do you go to
you.
bed?
What time do I go to bed?
Yeah.
No, girl, I'm so boring. I'm like a 9:30, 10 o'clock lights out, wake up by 6 or 6:30. And I'm
That's not
annoyed.
bad.
I wake up like happy every day. I'm like, hi, let's go do the thing.
See, that's what I need to get to. I need to be able to wake up feeling happy. Like, because how people are like, oh, I'm not a morning person, or I'm not awake until I have my coffee. Like, I want to be able to just be wide awake and happy. Like, let's go. There's
Okay, so I
days that
don't
I'm
need
like
to
that,
turn
but
this into like a PSA for Aura, but Aura, because they aggregated all of this health data that we'd never had before, they were able to create and actually find something super interesting. They're able to prove that humans have something called chronotypes, which is our DNA encoded natural awake time and sleep time. And so Aura, after 3 months, it will tell you the ideal time to go to bed and the ideal time to wake up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because my bedtime right now has been 11:30.
Yeah. Listen to it though, right? Listen, and this is the thing, right? Listen to when your body says, I'm getting tired, right? So sometimes what I've noticed for people, especially people that are pressurized night owls, right?
Yeah.
Is your body will start to get tired and you'll push through it. And when you push through it, you actually wake yourself back up and you get yourself out of a cycle. When your body was giving you a cue, it was giving you a clue hey, I'm tired now.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, sleep is also hormonal, just for what it's worth. Your hormones also tell you about your sleep, and your sleep is dictated by your hormones. These things are all connected. They're all connected.
Yeah.
But learning what is your body's natural rhythm is magic. Because I do think there's a kind of a permission that comes with it, right? I'm well, Aura says I'm gonna go to bed early, girly, so bye. And I think there's something magical about having some permission, right? That's hey, the data says I'm really stressed. I need to go chill out.
Yeah.
And especially as women, we're so hard on ourselves. We push so much. We do so much with other people. We need that permission.
Yeah, I think my problem is I come up with so many ideas and I can't turn it off. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. I'm going to add this now, and I need to.
Oh, girl, I'm that too. I'm hey, I have an idea.
I've got 5 businesses going.
Exactly. This is also a personality type, right?
Yeah.
And I've sort of leaned into it. I'm all right, I'm an idea person. I need to find people that are executors and put them around me, because I'm not an executor, but I'm an idea person.
Yeah.
So I'm hey, here's 5 ideas. Does anybody want to do them?
Right. So we talked about skin. We talked about hormones and everything. How does that affect your hair? Because it makes a huge impact on your hair too.
Yeah. Look, it's all connected. Hair health is also how your hormones are doing. I don't know as much about hair health as I do about skin health, but I know we're going to learn a lot.
Yeah. I was going to say, in the app, is there anything that will say, hey, you should use this kind of conditioner, or this will help with hair growth, or, whatever?
Yeah. Our long-term goal is yes. So right now, we really want the app to be a wellness platform.
Okay.
And so it's really looking at the connection between hormones and skin. We're just going to start with that. But then we're going to add in hair, mood, sleep, cognition. I mean, all of those things that are general wellness, to really start to understand the multifactorial factors that affect all of this, right? But they all have one thing in common, which is your hormones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So when is this app going to be available?
Girl, great question. So it's in beta right now, and we have about 10 people, myself included, using it. And I have to tell you, I'll send you the video of this. When we first put the algorithm together that would predict a breakout. So we have an algorithm that will predict a breakout by up to 3 days with an 80% confidence. And then it will tell you what to do to prevent those things, including tracking your triggers, and here are common triggers. And when it happened, when we ran it through, I took a video of it, and it totally predicted that I would get a breakout on my chin, on my right side of my face.
What?
Right. So yeah, there's actually all this science that shows if you get breakouts based off of hormonal breakouts, spots where they are on your face, it's the inverse of which ovary is ovulating.
What? That is amazing. Can I get in beta testing?
Yeah, girl, I will send you the
Can I
link.
get in on that?
It's so, like, all this stuff is so fascinating, right? This is what I mean. Like, glowing skin isn't a mystery. It's not a product problem. Product is 5%. It's all these other factors. And so understanding them, watching them, getting into that rhythm, like, you will figure it out and you will be like, my skin is glowing and I feel great and I'm happy. What happened?
Right.
And you're like, well, first I protected my endocrine system, and now all the products in my world and everything is syncing to it, and I'm just in harmony and rhythm with my my body's natural cycles.
Yeah, I like that. So much good information. So tell me, like, what are your plans beyond this then? Like, what else are you going to do? You've got all these ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're starting with skin, then we'll move into hair, of course. And then I really want to go into mood. I think that's really interesting. Sleep is really, really interesting. Cognition, like, when is your brain its best, I think is really interesting. You know, I'm 42, so I'm really watching my peers go through perimenopause and menopause. And so I'm excited to see how we can help an entire generation of women navigate this change better. And so that's what I'm excited about. You know, I think lots of people will use the app that are younger than that, but this particular cohort, because they're my friends and they're me, you know, I want to make sure that we're transitioning through all of life stages just as gracefully, elegantly, and with new understanding.
Right. So will the app be called Same?
Yes, the app is called Same. You can go to sameskincare.com right now, and there should be a button that says sign up for beta. I'll send you the link to it because we actually keep having to close the beta because it gets too full.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that want to be in the beta for this.
Wow.
But it should be live and ready to launch at the end of summer.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. Yeah. That is so exciting. So definitely checking out. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for just enlightening us all on so much information. I feel like there's so many people that I know that have had like fertility issues but it's also pretty exciting to see that there's so much on the horizon that's coming up, and the science behind it is pretty exciting too.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm super excited about it too. I think you're very right. A lot of people are struggling. And so tools to help people is really, really meaningful work. That feels like a noble pursuit to me.
Right. I mean, you've got to be able to advocate, especially dealing with it yourself and knowing what you're going through. It's like, okay, how can I help other women? And you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's the thing, right? Like, do I have this other like insight that I figured out when I was on my endo journey, which is doctors need data. In order for them to make a diagnosis, doctors need data. So you go to the doctor and you complain about symptoms, but they're amorphous, right? I don't feel good. Okay, what does that mean? Right? And so if you have a way to go to a doctor and say like, hey, you know, I'm using this app and I've been tracking my stress and my HRV, my heart rate variability is consistently low. I'm finding myself very fatigued. On a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 6. You know, 80% of the time I'm a 6 and my heart rate variability is really low. I'd love to know what you think about that data. Like, a doctor will respond to you.
Yeah. Yeah. They'd be like, thank you for giving me all this information. I appreciate this.
Yeah. Well, doctors need data, right? Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out how do we equip women with a lot of information in a data form that they can go and give their doctor, right? And then they can say, and this is my dream, like they say, and by the way, I'm using this app and 46% of girls my same age, my same place in my cycle with my same skin also have this. These are the 3 triggers. What can you tell me about this? And like, it just allows us to really get to a new level of understanding on especially wellness things, because the tools that doctors have are pharmaceuticals. And like, we kind of need to be better than that.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. When you go into the office, even myself, when you go into a doctor's appointment, you may take, other medications that you've been on in the past. Not everybody brings in notes of what, like, this is what I need to talk about. This, even my migraine appointments, I'm like, I tried this, and this. I think it was that. I'm not quite sure. And it doesn't really give the doctors much to work off of. They're like, okay, well, maybe we should try this because I don't think that you've tried this yet. Right.
Yeah. I'm super excited for you to be in the beta, actually, because I'm really intellectually curious about the connection between hormone fluctuations, triggers, and migraines.
Yeah. Me
I want to
too.
learn something for you.
Me too.
I don't know if you've ever connected those two, but I bet you they're connected.
I bet they are too. I mean, besides when it rains, but
Yeah. Yeah, but an app can tell that too, right? Like we're pulling in that weather data, so we can tell you, like, heads up, this is a day when you're likely to have a migraine.
Right.
Here's what we think you should do to prevent that.
Right. So I have a question, last question for you.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing about how dermatology treats hormonally driven skin issues, what would that be?
I would like dermatologists to just connect the dots between skin health and cycle health.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because they don't, right? They're like, what's your problem? They don't say, well, where are you in your cycle? What do these look like? Where are they on your face?
Mm-hmm.
Is it cyclical? Is it all the time? They're not, dermatologists typically aren't looking at that, right? They're like, well, do we need to put you on Accutane?
Mm.
Real talk.
Yeah. It makes sense, you know? Yeah. Asking those questions. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's always been a question that I've always thought. And it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you have PCOS. Actually, I had like 4 different doctors. One told me, oh yeah, you have PCOS, just take metformin. And then another one, nope, you don't have it. Another one, yeah, you have it. No, you don't have it. And metformin's not doing anything. You don't need to be on it. I was like taking for years.
Oh, I'm
like
so sorry.
Years ago, and it did nothing. So it was like, okay, well, I don't know what I have. I don't know what the issues are. Yep. So
yeah, this is, I mean, endo's a similar story as PCOS, and typically those two things actually go together. They're chronic hormonal conditions.
Yeah.
And the problem is, just like endo, who do you go see for this, right? If you go to a dermatologist, they're going to treat your skin, but they're going to treat it, you know, as its own variable. And they're going to tell you, go to an endocrinologist, and an endocrinologist is going to be like, well, I do cancer, you know? And an endocrinologist is going to say, go talk to your OBGYN. And your OBGYN is going to be like, go on birth control. I make babies. And so we're kind of left to like no one to help us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. Until now.
We got to do it ourselves, girl, because no one's coming to save us. We got to save ourselves. Amazing.
Even more amazing.
I can't wait. Thanks, Janelle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining us this week. Sanofi and Regeneron invite you to learn more about Dupixent dupilumab at www.dupixenthcp.com. No wonder it's possible. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me and listening to That's Derm Good. You can expect new episodes of That's Derm Good every week. The podcast is available on your favorite app, including where you're listening right now. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. Bye.